wondered what's really going on between North and South Korea? Well, it's not all K-pop and Kim Jong-un memes, it's actually a really intense situation. And in the last few months, things have been heating up between these two countries more than usual. So grab your popcorn or maybe something less relaxing, because we're about to take a deep dive into the latest North and South Korea altercations. Buckle up! First things first, how did we get here? North and South Korea haven't exactly been best friends since the Korean War, which, fun fact, ended in 1953 but never ended. Yep, they're still in a state of war, just under a ceasefire. Imagine living next door to your sibling, but you never actually called a truce after that one big fight. Awkward, right? The Korean peninsula was divided after World War II, with the North going full-on communist with the backing of the Soviet Union, while the South went capitalist, supported by the US ever since. They've been at odds. And by odds, I mean, hey, I might launch a missile in your direction, but I promise I won't aim it directly at you. This time. Yikes. Now, onto the latest drama. Over the past year or so, North Korea's been flexing its muscles again. They've ramped up missile tests, which isn't new, but the frequency and power of these tests have definitely been raising some eyebrows, not just in South Korea, but globally. In response, South Korea has also been showing some military might, conducting joint exercises with the US military, and North Korea. Well, they aren't big fans of that. So what happens when two neighbors with a history of mistrust start waving their military flags around? You guessed it, tensions rise. In August, we saw North Korea fire several missiles into the sea, claiming it was a response to provocations from the South. Meanwhile, the South has accused the North of violating agreements meant to reduce military hostilities along the border. That border, by the way, is one of the most heavily militarized in the world. Talk about high stakes. But it's not just missiles and troops. Oh no, things have gotten even more modern. Recently, North Korea has been ramping up its cyber warfare game. According to South Korean intelligence, the North has been attempting hacking attacks on key government and financial institutions. Imagine being in a virtual battle with your neighbor while also keeping an eye on their literal army. Double trouble. The cyber world is where North Korea really shines. They've become experts at infiltrating systems and spreading propaganda. On the flip side, South Korea is no slouch either. They've been beefing up their defenses in both the physical and digital realms. It's like the 21st century version of a spy thriller. Okay, now let's zoom out for a second. North and South Korea aren't in this alone. They have some pretty big allies behind them. The United States has been backing South Korea for decades, and any threat to the South is a threat to America's presence in Asia. That's why you see so many joint military drills, and why the US often steps in diplomatically when things get too hot. Think of the US as South Korea's big brother, who steps in when the little brother, South Korea, and the mischievous cousin, North Korea, get into a fight. On the other hand, North Korea is kind of like the wild card, with China playing a much quieter role. China doesn't want full-on chaos in the region, but they also don't want to see North Korea collapse, which could cause a flood of refugees and instability right at their doorstep. So China's been playing the role of keep things stable, but don't get too involved. So why does all this matter? Well, besides the obvious human cost of potential conflict, we're also talking about nuclear weapons here. North Korea's nuclear program has been one of the biggest concerns for the global community. Any escalation could spiral into something much bigger, and that's the last thing anyone wants. Think of it as having a neighbor with fireworks, except these fireworks could level a city. The South, meanwhile, isn't just going to sit back and wait. They've been increasing their military capabilities and relying heavily on international diplomacy to keep things from getting out of control. Now let's talk about one of the weirdest places on Earth, the Demilitarized Zone, or DMZ. It's the border between North and South Korea, and despite the demilitarized name, it's one of the most heavily guarded places in the world. It's a no-man's land where soldiers from both sides stand just feet apart, constantly on edge. There are even tour groups that visit the DMZ. Imagine going on vacation and adding visit a war zone to your itinerary. That's some serious adventure travel right there. So, what's next for North and South Korea? Honestly, it's hard to say. While both sides have expressed interest in peace talks at various points, there's still a lot of mistrust. The North has hinted at resuming dialogue, But with missile tests still happening and military exercises continuing, it's a tense waiting game. At the end of the day, both Koreas have a long history of conflicts, and these recent altercations show that peace is still a distant dream. But as they say, hope springs eternal. Maybe one day these two nations will come together in more than just name, but don't hold your breath. Before we wrap up, remember this isn't just about North and South Korea. These altercations have global implications. With nuclear weapons in play, cyber warfare on the rise, and major world powers like the US and China involved, this situation could change the political landscape in Asia and beyond. So, there you have it, an update on North and South Korea's recent tensions. Thanks for sticking around until the end. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that like button, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Peace out!